Please do not post your referral code in the comment section below, otherwise Kung Fu Bears will come after you while you sleep. Hey guys, Jaybo785 here. Today's video is basically about some of my favorite Kung Fu movies. Now, I'm actually a pretty big martial arts fan, and I actually have taken some martial arts classes and have my first degree black belt. That being said, I've noticed something in cinema of lately that movies are getting further and further and further away from what would actually be practical and surreal after the first Matrix movie. So, I'm going to show you some of my favorite movies, some of my least favorite movies, some that are really popular, some that you probably haven't ever heard of. Now, there's going to be, guys, I know there's going to be some that I've left out that you're like, why didn't you put this in? He's the martial arts master, or so on and so forth. And that's because I want to give you a glimpse at what I personally like and maybe you haven't seen. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Now, before I get to the actual movie review, something that I'd like to show you some of your old NES hardcore fans is the Kung Fu parody. Now, I recommend that you get on newgrounds.com. Make sure that your anti-spyware and malware is up to date before you get on this website, guys. All you have to do is go up to the search engine, type in Kung Fu. This is the video that you'll be looking for, and hit that start button. Now, I'm not going to ruin the surprise for you guys. Just get on there and check it out, okay? The first movie I want to review is Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. Anybody that likes movies like Kung Fu Panda or, maybe Iron Monkey, something with a little bit of humor and martial arts, Shaolin Soccer. If you haven't seen this one yet, it is my favorite. You cannot help but laugh. It is a dumbass comedy, I'll tell you that. It is not highbrow humor at all. It's not a dry sense of humor. It goes well beyond what you would ever need to laugh at. And I just can't help but laugh. And there's subtle little things in it too. You can find this on Netflix, maybe even Hulu. And just get on there and check it out. It is a must-see if you are a Kung Fu fan. Next one would be Kung Fu Panda, continuing with that comedy theme. I grew up watching movies like Karate Kid and watching those old, import Japanese movies that were absolutely horrible. And I think Kung Fu Panda, along with Jack Black, Dustin Hoffman, I guess if you want to give Angelina Jolie any credit, and, even Jackie Chan for his limited lines, the first one is absolutely great. And honestly, my favorite character, which honestly goes overlooked, which is a shame, would be Ian McShane, which plays the villain of Kung Fu Panda. Now, if you haven't seen this one, it's old enough that it's really cheap now. Be sure to put it on your to-buy list. The Matrix, which I already briefly covered this one. Guys, I have nothing wrong with the outrageous Kung Fu scenes that you'll see as long as they actually apply to the movie. For The Matrix, with, being able to bend the laws of physics because they live in a, abnormal, subcultural, virtual world, that's fine. I have no problem with that. It's when they start to take aspects of The Matrix and put them in newer films, which is supposed to be realistic. That's where I start to get a little bit pissed off. And like I said, unfortunately you see that more and more and more in action movies. And you see that especially after The Matrix first came out. And I think that you've really seen a decline in the quality of a lot of martial arts movies. So, another one that I'm going to talk about is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Now, you see a lot of mystical moves and so on and so forth that you're going to talk about. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is another one that I don't have a problem with because that applies to that world. That's applicable to that world. You know going in that that's what you're going to see. So when you see the Matrix stuff or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon stuff in other films, it pisses me off. Starting to finally move away from that, you see movies like Satoshi the Blind Swordsman, which you can find that on Hulu. They actually had quite a few of them for free. Now, Zaitachi still has that mystical aspect of it, that this is a blind Ronin, or this is a blind samurai, and that he can use his other senses, so his supreme hearing and, the sense of vibration, movement, and anticipation to slash his foes down. But it still has that realistic aspect of it. So, if you want to say that this is the first Daredevil, and goddamn, that was a horrible-ass movie, then Zaitachi does a great job of it. Now, it does have that Japanese post, Hiroshima feel to it. So it kind of has that post-apocalyptic. Everybody's trying to wander around and really find their place in society. You really get that from that 1950s feel of the film. It does have the Japanese culture in it, which honestly, I'm going to tell you, I'm not really well rehearsed with. There are certain aspects where I had to do some additional research, but it piqued my interest, and it was fun to watch. And it doesn't go Kill Bill style of just beyond gore, And it has that Japanese theater aspect to it still, which is wonderful to see. So, if you haven't ever heard of Zaitachi or seen Zaitachi the Blind Swordsman, get on Hulu, get on Netflix, go to your local brick and mortar store and see if they have it, because it's a wonderful movie. The Transporter. Now, I'm a Jason Statham fan. I like Jason Statham, and he's done some wonderful films, some highly underrated films, and he's done some absolute shit. Now, probably one of the most current movies he's in would be Expendables 2, and there's a couple other British films that he's done. Now, one film that I want to talk about is The First Transporter. This was kind of a cult phenomenon. Not a lot of people had heard about it. It was kind of under the radar. And it's a great movie, guys. Now, some of the action films he does himself, he's very athletic, he's very good. Other ones, you know that they're doing a stand-in. He goes from just white as can be to a little Asian man, which kind of sucks. I hate to see people that are the stud devils that do a great job and deserve the credit that they do just get swept under the rug. Now, The First Transporter has some amazing action scenes. There's one where he actually basically throws old bus oil on the ground, so all his enemies are slipping all around, and he puts on bike pedals to gain traction. He's kicking these sons of bitches in the face with these metal bike pedals, and I love the action scene. It's something that I've never seen before. It's kind of unrealistic, but somewhat plausible, but more than anything, it's fun to watch. And a lot of the action scenes in this movie are plausible to a certain extent. Some go pretty fucking outrageous. There's one scene where he actually parachutes onto the top of a moving semi, which was just retarded. But for what that does and those small parts, there's other scenes that completely make up for it. And there's some things about this movie that I wish other movies would incorporate. Now, guys, I'll warn you. There's a Transporter 2, and there's a Transporter 3. If you're a fan of the first one, which I really recommend checking out, it might even be one to buy, to tell you the truth. For the love of God and all that is holy, do not get the second one. It is one of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Stay away from that toxic piece of shit. The third one, it's okay. It's a riddle at best. Now, we're starting to get into some of the better stuff. Jackie Chan's The Drunken Master. This really has a Chinese feel to it. It has that cinematography that only, Chinese opera could really bring to you. And it has the best that Jackie Chan has ever really offered to you. He actually directed a lot of these, of the choreography of this film and of his other films. And not only that, but of the other actors in the film. If you haven't seen the original Jackie Chan The Drunken Master, it's a great film. There's wonderful aspects to it. It has good training monologues. It has that comedy that actually did transfer over pretty well to the US, that you could still laugh at it without having to do any research. Give it a shot. And, this goes to the practical and still the questionable of going through this intense training and actually drinking enough alcohol to kill a small rhino. Would it make you stronger? It's a humorical aspect of it. Practical, no, but still definitely worth watching. Jean-Claude Van Damme. Kickboxer is a great film. I'm sure that a lot of you have probably seen it. You can honestly get this movie for about $5 in the Blu-ray section. It's worth seeing if you've never seen it before. It has his classical jumping, spinning roundhouse kick and whatnot. So give it a shot if you haven't seen it. It's a good Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. It's a great 80s movie if you like that kind of stuff and want to go retro style. It has classical scenes that are definitely parodied everywhere. and it has great villains, and of course the great Sensei, Sifu, Master, whatever you want to talk about. The film was really well done for its time, and it's definitely probably about the second best Jean-Claude Van Damme movie ever done. Starting to get to more of the realistic aspect, still some pretty crazy ass scenes, would be Jet Li's Once Upon a Time in China. This unfortunately is not a very well known movie in the States, and it's kind of hard to find. And when this used to be only on VHS tape, it was pretty freaking expensive. The first Once Upon a China is pretty good. It has some weird ass scenes, where they're so low budget with special effects that I remember they're riding on a train and they're getting vertigo, and his student is seeing triple vision, and so rather than one spoon, they just have three different hands holding three different spoons shaking him. And for that kind of thing, it's worth seeing because you can't help but laugh. And of course, Jet Li, he's a very talented individual, and you're going to see some great scenes. The Once Upon a Time in China, I'd recommend watching the first one, but out of the three in the series, the second one is actually the best, okay? Now, guys, I know a lot of you are probably going, you're not really talking about a lot of what the directive is in the movie, what the story is in the movie. And guys, that's what I want you to do. I want to pique your interest, and I want you to go out and research a lot of these films on your own. If you haven't heard of these, I can go in 30 minutes to an hour in depth of each movie, talking about this scene meant this, this part of the film was great. They should have worked better on this scene, they should have directed it this way. They should have used this type of filming style. I could go into that, but really the purpose of this movie is keep it short, simple, sweet of what my top list is. Now, going back and getting off that tangent of Once Upon a Time in China series, the second one is actually best. There is a scene that comes to mind where they take this long piece of wet cloth, and what they do is they start swinging that around and using their own body mechanics and using their own momentum of, I wouldn't say necessarily Tai Chi, but something of that similarity, and they turn that wet cloth and they snap it almost like a whip, or they then turn it into a solid bow staff, and they're cracking cement blocks, and that's probably one of my favorite scenes of that movie. If anything, guys, just YouTube it, Hulu it, Netflix it, just for that one part of Once Upon a Time in China 2. And that's actually what got me, I saw the second one first, got me interested in the third movie and then the first movie. I had to laugh at this. Jet Li and his final martial arts epic. Jet Li's Fearless. Bullshit. Jet Li has done at least another 20 films since this one. I could not help but laugh at that. Fearless in itself is a good movie. There's some wonderful aspects about that. I'm not sure if he's actually based upon Ip Man on this film, because there's 50 different Ip Man stories in all these different Chinese films, especially of lately, as the China culture starts to look for heroes in the past. It's a good movie. It's fun to watch. It's, it still kind of has that over-the-top moments, but it's at least more practical. Bloodsport, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, personally, this is probably my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. This is actually about the Kumite. And this movie is loosely, very loosely, based upon a true story. And I like those true story, feel-good biography type of films. Not just with martial arts, but any type of aspect. And the Kumite is basically a fight to the death, which is why they call it Bloodsport. I recommend, if you have not seen this movie, if you're a fan of 80s movies, if you're a fan of current movies, to get in there and check it out. This film was wonderfully done. I think that this is one of the few films that, not only if Jean-Claude Van Damme did it, but if any great martial arts actor, or actor in particular that had the physique to do it, would have been a great film. This is something that I would actually like to see redone someday, if it's done right. And the whole fight to the death bullshit martial arts tournament thing has been done to death. You see it in Mortal Kombat, you see it in Tekken, you see it in fucking everything nowadays. But this is one of the first movies that you actually recognize this in the American culture. So get on any website, brick and mortar, check it out. You can actually probably pick it up on eBay for about $1. Here we finally start to get to the cream of the crop. Ip Man. For those of you that don't know who Ip Man was, it says right here, celebrated Kung Fu master of Bruce Lee. Ip Man actually studied the martial arts style Wing Chun. And I'm sorry if I enunciated that right. I hope I haven't offended anybody with that. I know that Hulu actually used to show this film for free. Now, you get any martial arts magazine, they're selling this movie for $20, $30. It's actually worth the price. It's one of the few films that's worth the price. But I recommend that you get on eBay, Amazon, so on and so forth, or even Hulu, and see if you can find it for free first. Now, Ip Man, you can actually watch the second one for free on Hulu, which I recommend that you get on there and check it out. But you should definitely watch the first one first. And of the two, the first one is my favorite, and the second one is still very, very good. My only critique of this movie is this is a direct from China to America film, and there are some aspects of it that are very anti-American and very anti-colonial British. And they do bring up valid points, but sometimes I think that they go way too biased. That fortunately does not ruin the aspect of the film, and it's wonderfully done. The cinematography is done. The acting is wonderful. You know, it is voiced over, and I know some people that turns them away instantly. Don't let it do that to you. This is a film that, it's not like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where you're trying to read the subtitles and you miss out on a lot of the film, okay? Give it a shot. This is one that is definitely worth buying. Even the second one, if you can get it cheap enough, is definitely worth buying. Which then starts to tie into probably one of the greatest martial arts masters, Bruce Lee. So finally, my very favorite movie, probably actually got me really interested in martial arts, was Dragon the Bruce Lee story. This is an older film. I believe that this film came out in 1993. This is actually one of the first DVDs that I bought. If you have not seen this film, you must go out and buy it. You must grab it. You know, speaking of Bruce Lee and just the amazing story of his life and getting past that, because I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that know about that. The film, the fight scenes, the acting, everything about this movie was done, if not perfectly, probably closest to it. There's one scene in this movie, the ice house scene, that comes to mind, that is still one of my favorite fighting scenes ever. It doesn't have that Matrix creepy bullshit to it. It is based on fact. It's based on actually what happened. When a man made an attempt on Bruce Lee's life and he had to fight to the death to save his life, which was part of his occurrence. And part of the occurrence of being a martial arts master, at any time, being able to defend yourself and to prove your worth. But there's one part in that ice house scene, and I'm not going to ruin it for you guys, because it is completely epic. Your jaw will drop. And for being a film that is now 93, do the math, guys, over 20 years old, it is still one of the best filmed scenes and best acted scenes I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, I know I repeated myself about a million fucking times there. You have to see this movie. Well, guys, that concludes my film narrative and my film review. Post any suggestions down in the comment section. I'd be more than willing to go ahead and do another review of favorite comedy, love, chick, you name it pretty much. Film review. And if you've liked this film, if it's helped you out, and if you're a new player to Rage of Bahamut, please use my referral code RUM26800. Gets you free rare cards and some rubies, and that's the same for me. Thanks a lot, guys. This is Jaybo785, signing off.